Did you ever want to complete a project and never got round to starting it? Like changing jobs, starting a business, or writing a book. Or maybe you wanted to start a podcast or a YouTube channel, and months or even years later, you hadn't posted a single video. Today on the Venkat Files, we pick apart the internal resistance we call procrastination, and identify the switch that turns it off. Whatever your beliefs in the afterlife are, this is the only chance you get at this life, so it's important to have a go at anything you really want to do. Before you listen further, I urge you to share with us in the comments below something you wanted to do but failed to start, and what you believe held you back. I'll pause the recording for 1 second for you to complete this. Welcome back. If you performed this exercise, you're probably in the minority. Most people find it easier to watch or listen than to do. This is a key feature of procrastination, which we'll get to later. First, let's define procrastination. Procrastination is a failure to take timely action towards a goal, whose benefits are clear and for which there are no obvious barriers to its attainment. Let's take an example. If this is your first time meeting Pip, he's an imaginary organism who appears on the Venkat Files whenever he's free. Pip likes to draw circles in his spare time. Being but a simple character, each circle takes him about a minute to draw. One day his neighbour notices his circles and asks Pip to draw a set of 60 circles to help him cover his side of the fence. Pip likes his neighbour and is keen to maintain their friendship. He agrees and decides to start the very next day. But the next day he gets busy. He has to clear up his bedroom and wash the dishes. Then there's the laundry. In the small amount of free time he has, he feels he needs to rest. He makes a few cups of tea and watches a couple of TV shows. Soon it's time for bed. He doesn't know where the time went, and he decides to start the project again tomorrow. Tomorrow comes, and the same thing happens again. And again. And again. And pretty soon he's avoiding his neighbour for fear of embarrassment. Pip's behaviour gives us a first clue to what causes procrastination. It's a reluctance to deliver on a promise that you made. On the face of it, it seems to be a promise you made to someone else. Pip made his promise to his neighbour, but he could decide at any time to break the promise. At that point, he's no longer procrastinating. He is clear in his mind that the task is never going to get done. The promise he made then, that he's reluctant to deliver on, is to himself. When you decide to get fit and can't seem to get motivated to do your press-ups or go for that walk, the same thing has happened. You're reluctant to deliver on the promise you made to yourself. Often you're unaware why. This is a common feature of procrastinators. They're often unaware of the reason behind their reluctance. They're only aware of a sense of unease when they're about to start a particular project. The unease stops them taking the necessary action. When they look for advice on YouTube or read books, all they hear are motivational speeches or hacks to try to cajole them into starting. Or they've been told it's due to fear of failure or fear of success. For most things, this is not really true. Let's explore. Given that we are, after all, animals, it's useful to look at other animals for insights into our own behaviour. If you've ever visited the lion enclosure at the zoo, you may have been disappointed to find the big cat prefers to spend most of its time sleeping. While it's not sleeping, it's yawning or changing seating position. And it's as well that it does this. By nature, it needs to conserve energy in preparation for its next hunt. If it spent its spare time playing chase with its friends, the next time a herd of antelope crosses its path, it would have no inclination to initiate a pursuit. Lions you encounter in the wild, on safari, are even more sedate. Conservation of energy is built into every wild animal's behaviour. Possibly it's written into their genetic code. Young animals do naturally play, but this is no trivial use of their energy. It hones their coordination and fighting skills in preparation for independence, when they'll participate in the battle to stay alive. Domesticated animals also play, and keep doing so into adulthood. These creatures developed this trait during selective breeding from wild ancestors, to keep their human owners entertained. And herbivores are in constant action too, because they eat continuously. Their food is so low in energy density that it takes enormous volumes to derive the slightest benefit from it. Constant eating, then, is a prerequisite for their survival. Fast-moving mice, squirrels and meerkats are also in continuous action, again is a survival strategy, hunting for food. Had our ancestors been pure carnivores, we would have been as unable as the lions to get anything done. But we lie somewhere between meat-hunting carnivores and foraging insectivores, subject to natural inertia, but not as much as we could be. What can we take from what we've said so far? First, conservation of energy is a basic animal trait, and by direct association, it's a basic human one too. Your subconscious mind naturally quells enthusiasm for any activity that doesn't directly impact survival or perpetuate your genes. This feature would keep you alive in the wild, but in modern society, the pressures are different. Pip could get away with not drawing circles for his neighbour. His survival is not at risk. He lives in a safe society with ample food, and the neighbour will one day realise this is never going to happen and give up knocking on his door. The drawback is that next time Pip needs a favour, his neighbour is less likely to oblige. Now, the same survival drive that kept his ancestors safe keeps Pip chained to inaction, which is a nuisance. He doesn't want to draw the 60 circles, but he wants to draw them. Yet something keeps stopping him from doing it. Something that's mysterious to him. All we need do is find the piece of code that evolution gave us and replace it with something more helpful for high-intelligence modern-day primates. In order to find it, we need to recognize what exactly happens when we procrastinate. There is a pattern, and it's highly conserved throughout most examples. Let's say you promised yourself you'll start exercising tomorrow. The sequence of events begins like this. First, you get the uplifting sense of strong motivation. Tomorrow is going to be the day that it begins. 6 a.m. 6 a.m. comes. The alarm rings. The moment is here. Now, the second step in the sequence comes into effect. Something happens inside you. You get a feeling of unease. This feeling is key. There's something about the activity or your interaction with it that makes you feel uneasy. You don't know exactly what it is. If you were to try to articulate it, you might say something like, I can't be bothered, or too much effort, or maybe tomorrow. Why exactly you can't be bothered is difficult to say. So your mind makes up a reason, often a lame one, like, I have a slight ache in my foot, and exercising right now might make it worse. Or, I'm slightly sniffly, and if I exercise right now, it'll turn into a full-blown cold. The reasons all seem possible at the time, just enough to convince you to stay in bed. Even if you get yourself out of bed, the subconscious mind will present you with a multitude of other things that it finds easier to achieve, in an effort to make you feel like you won. Washing dishes or tidying the dining table, or, dare we say, watching YouTube videos. When viewers were offered the chance to share their story at the beginning, and most didn't, this is a natural phenomenon. The subconscious mind finds it easier to carry on listening than to act on dealing with procrastination. However small that act is, pinpointing the exact component of your activity that causes this unease is key to winning the battle. And in order to do this, you need to visualize the full sequence of events in that activity so you can sense out each part and identify the one key part that's causing the discomfort. Unfortunately, your subconscious mind has already done all the calculations for you and come to its own conclusion that it's not a worthy endeavour. It doesn't want you to reimagine the whole sequence, which is why lots of people can't identify the part of the activity causing the discomfort, and so they keep procrastinating for months and years. The subconscious mind is an ocean of complexity and intrigue, so much so that to call it a sub-anything is to do it a grave disservice. We'll explore this topic in a separate episode of the Venkat Files. If you'd like to see it, press the notification bell for this channel. Suffice to say for now, for this episode at least, that you can modify the behaviour of the subconscious mind. Just like ChatGPT, it responds well to conversational style commands. It works best with your own preferred language, and unlike ChatGPT, it has a flair for lateral thinking. Simply becoming consciously aware of what your subconsciousness is doing will usually persuade it to step aside and allow you to fix the problem. When Pip realizes this, he can visualize a sequence of steps needed to create his 60 circles. Pip's sticking point, as it turns out, was that he couldn't bring himself to spend a whole hour drawing circles he'd never benefit from. He should now be able to reprogram the code to say something like, he can get his neighbour's eternal loyalty, all in return for just 1 hour of effort. 1 hour of doing something he loves doing anyway. This is the first switch that can turn procrastination into proactive action, identifying the precise point of discomfort in an activity and reframing it, which usually first requires that you ask the subconscious to let you visualize the whole process. As well as finding the source of unease, there's another pivot point we can look at that affects procrastination, and this is the calculation the subconsciousness uses to conclude whether an activity is worthwhile or not. The equation is simple and logical, but at the same time flawed. Here it is. Knowledge plus action plus skill plus luck equals successful result. If it sees something missing in one of the 4 items on the left, it scores the likelihood of a successful result as lower. For example, maybe you lack the knowledge on how to begin a YouTube channel. You may not know how to write a script or edit videos. The subconscious mind will conclude that the likelihood of achieving a successful result, given the values to the left of the equation, is too low, and it tries all the unhelpful techniques of dissuasion we spoke of earlier. This is where you step in. The subconscious mind assumes you're after a successful result, which you are, and that's what needs to change. The right-hand side of the equation. We have the ability to change successful result to 1 iteration. There's no luck required to reach the first iteration. No knowledge, and no skill. Only action. There's no pressure to achieve a successful result. Only an iteration. All it takes to reach the first iteration is action. Same with the second iteration, and the third, and the fourth. For most projects, you can predetermine how many iterations you undertake before you quit. This second switch moves the subconscious mind to favour action, because the outcome is really easy, and the effort to reward ratio is highly favourable. Before we come to the third switch, let's recap. We've seen that procrastination is built into your makeup. Your subconscious mind will try to protect you from wasting energy on activities unrelated to survival or procreation. We've seen that we can identify the pain points in the activity that cause the subconscious to react this way, but we need to be aware of the reaction so the subconscious will step aside and let you speak. Once you reframe the pain point, you will often move forward with little effort. We've seen how the subconscious will also say no to anything that, by its calculations, has a low probability of a successful result. We've discussed the equation it uses to reach its conclusions. This equation proved useful to our ancestors, but is less suitable for modern pressures. So we need a means of adjusting the equation so we can thrive in today's world. We revealed that changing the desired outcome from successful result to 1 iteration can reassure the subconscious that it's easy to achieve. This changes the effort to reward ratio in favour of taking action, and the subconscious mind will offer no further resistance. Now for the third switch. You may be aware that some hunter-gatherer tribes spend their entire lives barefoot. They walk amid loose thorns all their lives. Though they do develop somewhat thicker skin than we have, the main difference is their pain threshold. Having a large thorn embedded in their foot is so commonplace that they barely notice. This same trait develops amongst Westerners who begin to walk barefoot. Over a period of time, they too fail to notice minor breaches of the skin. And here's where it relates to the subconscious. Having a little discomfort on a frequent basis increases your discomfort threshold and makes the subconscious less responsive to small stresses, like the pain points we discussed in individual activities. People who start taking ice baths sometimes report that their lives changed as a result. This is in no small part due to the higher threshold of discomfort that their subconscious can tolerate. Persistently lowering the temperature of your shower by just a little stretches your range of tolerance and reduces the fear of trying something potentially uncomfortable at other times of day. Of course, procrastination can sometimes be a good thing. The seemingly annoying conclusions of your subconscious can sometimes keep you safe. If you're saying yes to a lot of things you dislike doing, perhaps it's time to listen to your subconscious mind and learn to decline those opportunities you get offered, like gifts that are wrapped up to look pretty but turn out to be a box of liabilities. Speaking of gifts, there's no greater gift you could give to us at the Venkat Files than to press the little thumbs up sign to tell us you enjoyed the show. Subscribe to the channel if you like our sort of thing, and let us know your battles with procrastination and share anything that worked for you. In the meantime, we wish you the best of luck with your projects and look forward to welcoming you again on the Venkat Files.